EQ for teachers. Really, it's EQ for anyone. So what is EQ? Shorthand for emotional intelligence. So we think of IQ as intellectual ability. EQ is emotional intelligence. That's emotional ability and capability. Oh, we got some more people. Come on in. Come on in. We got a table for you right up here. Yeah. So we are up to 6,000 in attendance this morning in our room. So, or it might be 3. I don't know. 6. I lose track. So, so we're talking about emotional intelligence, and the whole point of this talk is to give us a sense of how our inner world impacts our outer world, what we're doing in education. So here we go. We're going to do a warm-up exercise, and then I'm going to tell you a little bit of rationale why we need to know about our personality, talk about the Big 5 model of personality, and then your strengths and weaknesses. So part of what you'll do is you'll take a personality test online. You can use your phone to do that, or you can use a laptop if you have that. And then, we'll talk about what it means in the classroom. So here we go. Warm up. Take out a sheet of paper, and I'd love you to write down the answer, like write this sentence stem and then complete it. Most people would describe my personality as what? So I think for me it would be, some people would say brash and abrasive. Most people would describe mine as maybe driven. Okay. So let's see what you got. Personality.
Yeah. We're not talking about my wife, right?
Spouse is a significant other, does not get to participate. Yeah.
Positive, sincere, committed.
Committed?
Yeah. I'm pretty. Yeah.
Okay, great. Excellent. What about you, ladies?
Mine's honest and direct.
Honest and direct. Okay, like it. Yeah. Caring. Good. So you said committed. So I'm projecting here, but we'll see. I predict that you'll score low on the openness to experience scale, which is great. And so, I'm sorry, what was yours again? You said
Honest and direct.
Honest and I think you're going to score high on the conscientiousness scale, and then maybe low on the agreeableness scale, maybe. And then yours was loving, caring? I think you're going to score high on the agreeableness scale, but we'll come back to that and see. But those are my predictions. I score high on the conscientiousness scale, low on the agreeableness scale, and low on the extrovert scale. And all of that will mean something to you by the end of the hour. If I had to describe my personality in one word, what would it be? So that's how other people see you, but how do you see yourself? I see myself as driven, I think. I agree with people that I'm driven. So do when you think about yourself, is it consistent with what other people see in you, or does it feel different?
It's a different aspect. Mine would be unsure, second guessing. Right? So however you would describe that.
Okay. Sure. Yeah, second. Great. What about you?
I would see myself as focused.
Focused, yeah. Good. She hesitates.
It's so hard.
Yeah, it is.
It's hard too because I have my social or my profile in my head, and I know I'm a harmonizer, and I can't get past the fact that I'm a harmonizer.
Is that a Strengths Finder descriptor? Okay.
Harmonizer, so
Okay.
get along.
Peacemaker. So you agree with what people say about you, that you're, okay, that's awesome. Good. Okay, now next one. I usually get along best with people whose personality is what? Laid back, driven, nice, direct, kind, soft-spoken, aggressive. I get along best with people who are, I don't know. I get along best with people who shut up and do what I say.
I was thinking,
But that's not a personality trait, is it? Actually, it is. It's called highly agreeable. We'll talk about that. Okay. And then I think one more. It's hard for me to be around people whose personality is what? Who are the people that rub me the wrong way? That's another good. We'll talk about that again. So the whole point here of this little warm-up exercise is just to get us thinking about personality. So sometimes when we talk about personality, like, well, what are they like? You know, what's their personality? Well, they love to hunt and fish, or they love the outdoors, or they're really friendly, or really quiet. And so sometimes we use words to describe personality that really aren't personality. So what I'm going to walk you through are actual personality constructs, again, based on this, what we call the Big Five model. So here we go. This is a quote by my friend, not really my friend, he's dead, but Carl Jung. He's a sort of neo-Freudian psychoanalyst. And he said this: until you make the unconscious conscious, it'll direct your life and you'll call it fate. And I really like that, because what he's saying is that at a deep level within us, there are things that we know but we're not aware of. So like, I know my personality, but I'm not always aware of it. I know about my past, but I'm not always aware of it. So that stuff, you know, gets buried deeper and deeper into, so there's the conscious, which is what we're actually thinking in the moment. So right now your conscious is telling you, I'm in a room, I'm listening to Adam. I mean, that's all here and now. What you're not thinking about is the color of your car. But if I ask you, you could go a little bit deeper and say, oh yeah, it's red, it's green, it's gray. Great. And then if you go deeper, I can ask, who was your third grade teacher? And maybe you remember that. And then if I go deeper, I ask, who did you sit next to in third grade? And maybe you do or don't remember. And if I go even deeper, I could say, I could ask, on February 3rd, when you were in third grade, who did you sit next to at lunch? I mean, who knows? I can barely even remember third grade. But technically, all that data is in my brain. But it just goes deeper and deeper into subconscious. So what Jung is saying is that there's a lot of stuff down there that drives behavior, and we're not even aware of it. And until we become aware of that, it's going to direct our life, and we're just going to call it fate. It's like some unknown, unseen force, and we won't realize, like, no, you can actually know that stuff and be aware of it. So that's sort of what this is about. It's about knowing my personality, what really is my personality, and how is it directing my behavior. It's not fate, it's my personality. So this is called a Johari window, and Johari window sounds really exotic. You know, where that came from, Johari, was the researchers, their last names were Johnson and Harrison. So they took the first letters like J-O and then H-A-R, Johari, Johnson and Harrison. And so they were the researchers that came up with this. So that's what Johari window is. Here's the whole deal. There's a premise here in psychology that the best version of me as a leader, as a teacher, as a parent, as a spouse, whatever my role is, I'm going to be best at that when I am my what's called authentic self. Okay, so the way this works is we're born into the world, and we have two sets of needs. One need is physical and one need is emotional. The physical needs are usually met. We're going to get a bottle, you know, our diaper's going to get changed. In low SES families, sometimes physical needs are not met. And when physical needs are not met, there's negative development associated with that. But the same thing is true with emotional. Emotional needs not being met also have negative influences. Well, what we do as babies and as toddlers and young children as we go through life, something in our soul knows that we need the emotional nurturing. We need love, because love is what grows our soul. Food is what grows our body. Love is what grows our soul. And we know we need that. Well, what happens in family systems, kids learn very, very quickly which versions of themselves will get the love and which versions won't get the love. And most of that's determined by their caregiver. So people figure out real young, oh, if I want love to nurture my soul, this is who I have to be. It's not really who I am, but I'm going to be this person anyway because this is what my family system requires, and I want love. Well, what happens then is we end up developing what's called a true self and a false self. We don't develop our true self. Our true self is really who we are. Our personalities, our likes, everything that's intrinsic to us. Our false self is who we become because we think we need to be that person to get the love that we want. And we carry that all the way into adulthood. An example of that is I have to have a certain degree, I have to have a certain title, I have to drive a certain car, wear certain clothes, live in a certain neighborhood, take certain vacations, my kids have to behave a certain way, I have to have a certain level of status. All of those things potentially, and there's nothing wrong with any of that unless I'm achieving those things because I think that's who I need to be to get love. But that's not the real version of me. That's not the most powerful and effective version of me. The real version of me is the most powerful version of me. And my goal is to be that person so that I can live in my greatest power. So back to the Johari window. This is the real me. Well, how do I grow the real me instead of growing this false me, this false identity that I created to feel love? There are two ways. Number one, I can ask other people. And like if I work with you or if we're in a relationship or if we're family, I can just say like, hey, what do you see in me? What are the things you like about me? What are the things that bother you about me? That's very, very scary. But when I do that, people reflect back to me because I'm limited. I'm the most biased rater of me, right? So I need your feedback, and you give me all this feedback. So I ask you, and what happens is it grows this area. This is my blind area, but feedback from you pushes, and I say, oh, well, people say I'm uptight. People say that I'm rigid. People say that I'm not relational. People say that I'm a loner. Good to know. Good to know. Now I can work on that, and I can start growing myself. So that's one way, is I can ask other people. Well, here's another way I can grow this real me is I can tell other people. So I'm asking you to give me feedback. Like, let's say we're a leadership team and we're leading a district or leading a special ed department and we're the leadership team. So number one, you give me feedback. Say, hey, Adam, I see you doing this. I see you ignoring that. I see you, it seems like you're a little compulsive about this, whatever it is, great. I need to know that because it grows my real self. And then the other thing is I'm going to tell you about me. I'm going to tell you at some level about past work experiences I had that were really hard for me, and I just need you to know that because I don't want to bring any of that garbage into this team. I want this team to have its own shot at me, and so just know that that's an issue from my past. I had this really bad supervisor. It was really damaging, and so when I come to you, I want you to know about that, and you can just kind of keep me accountable or give me feedback, and we can move forward. But the more I disclose to you at an appropriate level about myself, the more you know about me, and again, the more the real me emerges instead of this fake me. So this is called the Johari window. Now, this concept is really, really critical and fairly common in leadership in the corporate world. When you if you're a CEO or if you're leading an organization and you want to do personal development as a leader and you want to grow as a leader, most leadership coaches will have you take what's called a 360, an assessment. So you're going to take a personality test in this here to show your personality that we created, but we also have what's called a 360. And the 360 is you take it and you invite 3 other people to rate you. And all of that data comes together, and it's a really good way for you to see how other people perceive you. But this is what grows good, authentic, effective leaderships. Increasing your true self and not living in what Carl Jung called the unconscious or those deep things. Okay, let me stop right there. Reflect back to me. What do you hear in that? What makes sense? What doesn't make sense? Anything?
Well, when I look at the pictures are good for me, but the diagram, we have as much hidden, blind, or unknown areas.
Yeah.
As we do, maybe it's not exactly half, but
Sure.
there's a lot of hidden, blind, and unknown areas.
Yep.
Maybe even hidden to our. So.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. There is a lot of shadow here, and when you look at the proportion, it seems equal. And the whole goal, like for me, I think every day I want to just push the boundary a little bit. I want to be more real with myself. I want to be more authentic about my thoughts and my feelings and what I want and what I don't want. And so every day I just want to grow, grow, grow. So hopefully by the end of my trajectory here on earth, I've pushed this out. I'm more authentic, people know me more, and I'm living this more power-filled life. So that's the Johari. Yes, great feedback. Thank you.
I can see where this is so important in education.
Yeah, talk about that, how this is important.
We want kids.
Here, I'm sorry, let me give you the mic here.
Well, we want total wellness for our students and for our colleagues. But we have to do this for ourselves first to experience that so that we may then coach them or bring them along. But this makes a lot of sense with leaders, but also with kids. This is real important.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and I said this yesterday, and I tell educators all the time, I can't teach trigonometry unless I know trigonometry. And I really can't teach emotional intelligence or SEL effectively unless I know it. So this, at its core, is adult SEL. This is emotional intelligence. It's me going within to know myself. Scary process, absolutely, but so the return on investment for the scary process is so high. Okay, so that's it. That's kind of a little psycho theory about why this is helpful. Here's the deal. So you have this Johari process. It's scary to ask people to give you feedback. It's scary to self-disclose and be vulnerable. But here's the deal. Think about leaders, and I think about myself as a leader. Leaders who don't do that, who are not willing to engage in this process of self-awareness, they won't accept feedback. So they're not going to hear you. Just shut up and do what I tell you to do. And that kind of leader is miserable to work for. People who don't practice self-awareness can't empathize or take the perspective of others. So, hey, that's the way I see it. If you don't like it that way, tough, man. My way or the highway. Again, these options here create toxic cultures, toxic groups. People who don't practice self-awareness accept no blame and take all the credit. And so, again, think about some leaders that you've worked for, and think about yourself as a leader. And I know in my dark moments, this is who I become. When I'm not practicing self-awareness, when I'm not reflecting and getting feedback from others, this does not create for good group dynamics. In contrast, people who do practice self-awareness, you're less prone to professional burnout because you're engaged, you're connecting with people, and you're sharing burdens, you're sharing joys, and that relational connection makes us more sustainable as we journey through education. People who practice self-awareness, you're more likely to find peak performance in all areas of your life, meaning when I go back and do this hard work, as difficult and uncomfortable as it is, it doesn't just make me better in my role in a classroom or in my role with the special ed department. It makes me a better spouse, a better ex, a better parent, a better child, a better neighbor, a better sibling. Every area of my life I'll find peak performance in because it's such a, the benefits are cross-situational. And then the last one is people who do practice self-awareness create positive culture and synergistic teams. So again, as difficult as this work is to get feedback from other people, to be honest and disclose to other people honestly in vulnerability, as difficult it is, this is the return on investment. It's so worth it. And there's so much research that tells us that adults who practice this live better lives, and students who practice it, number one, they develop pro-social peers, meaning their relationships are good relationships with other peers who bring out the best in them. They're more able to self-regulate. They don't need behavior management plans because when you manage your emotion and your inner world, behavior manages itself. And then the third thing is because they're connected to good friends and because they're capable of self-regulation, their academics shoot up. They shift out of the survival mode, out of fight or flight, into rest and digest. That's where learning happens. They go from this part of their brain to this part of their brain, the cortex, so they can learn. So again, data just show that this is a good thing to do. Okay, so what is EQ? It's this, emotional intelligence. It starts with self-awareness and self-regulation. And so back to that quote by Jung, he was saying, if I don't have self-awareness, none of the rest of this stuff can happen. So it's got to start with me being aware of myself, the deeper stuff, the part of me. Once I'm aware of it, then I can regulate it. then this centers me. I'm good. I'm where I need to be. I'm a secure base. Now, what are you thinking and feeling? That's called empathy. And then how can I connect with you? And when we put these pieces together, we make good decisions. This is the life lived with the fewest regrets. When we put this in place, we're still going to make mistakes because we're not perfect. But the more we do these things, the more each day we look back and say, fewer regrets, fewer regrets, fewer regrets. So effective decision making, another way to think of it, looking back to this slide, is the more I can live in the real, authentic me, the fewer regrets I'm going to have, the more effective decisions I will make. But when I have all these personal blind spots and areas that I'm not aware of and where I act like an idiot or whatever it might be, and Lord knows I'm good at that, there are regrets here. This is not the realm of effective decision making. This is the realm of effective decision making from a leadership perspective. So there's the map. Today we're really talking, so when we talk about self-awareness and self-regulation, back to the Carl Jung, you need to pull that stuff up and make it conscious. There are three areas. Number one is our personality, number two is our emotions, and number three is our stress. Those are three main areas that leaders, when we mindfully remember these things and are conscious of how these things are playing in any given interaction, we become more effective. So yesterday I talked about stress. What is my stress? How is it driving my behavior for better and for worse? How can I engage fight or flight strategies that are life-giving instead of life-sucking? So the whole thing yesterday was about stress. Today, we're going to talk about personality. This morning, we're talking about personality and your personality and mine. That's another area that we need to be aware of, that we need to regulate. Okay. So here's the deal on that. When we think about personality, again, we're getting into the Big Five model here. There are so many different ways to think of personality. You know, like I did Strength Finders, I did the Enneagram, I did the Myers-Briggs, I did, one of them is like a colors test, or, you know, and I just have to, give me about 90 seconds to get on a soapbox. As a psychometrician, as a psychologist, as someone who has designed a test, and my dissertation was a psychometric analysis of a preschool screening instrument. So I'm an assessment nerd, and I get like a bug crawls up my butt when I hear about tests and everybody and their dog, you know, like the DISC and all of that. So, what's my point here? Let me get to my point. My point is, not all things that purport to measure personality really measure personality. They don't have validity and they don't have reliability. Okay, so what is validity and reliability? Basically, it means this. Let's say I have a ruler, 12 inches. Validity means, is it really 12 inches? You right? Compared to some standard, so there's some standard that this is what 12 inches is. Well, does my ruler equal that? And if it doesn't equal what the standard is, then it's not valid. So that's validity. A test has to have validity. It's got to measure against some standard. And then reliability. It's valid today, but is it valid tomorrow? So what if my ruler on any given day, it really is 12 inches, but it's made of rubber, and in the cold weather it shrinks, and in the hot weather it expands? So sometimes it's valid, but sometimes that's called reliability. It's got to be that standard day after day after day. And when personality tests don't meet those two criteria, they're not good. They're not helpful. And a lot of what we take as personality tests, they don't have reliability and they don't have validity. So then that sort of raises the questions, well, what is reliable and valid? When we think about personality, how do we measure it? Well, it's these 5 things. Every human being, whether they are American or African or European, male, female, 18, 88, African American, Caucasian, low SE, if you're a human being, then you will slide on one of these 5 variables. So we know from 60 plus years of social science research that this is the most validating. When we say personality, this is reliable and it's valid. And so the test that you're going to take measures this. There are 5 dimensions of personality. Number 1, It's called openness to experience. Do I prefer change or consistency? Number 2 is conscientiousness. Do I prefer structure or chaos? Number 3 is extroversion. Do I prefer to be alone or with others? Agreeableness. Do I prefer cooperation or competition? And the last one is called neuroticism. And that basically what that means is how quickly do I get into my emotion? These are documented, verifiable, statistically valid concepts or aspects of personality. And that's what we're looking at. Okay, and the reason this is so important is because I'll talk a little bit about bias here, but let me think about how to frame this. Okay, so the elevator speech and neuropsych and adaptation and survival. We as an animal, over many thousands and millions of years of evolution, have evolved and have survived because we've developed the capacity to fear change. That's a survival mechanism. So, I know it's not everybody's cup of tea, but I like to hunt. I'm a deer hunter. And you see this when you're in a deer blind. When a buck comes out, they're very slow, very cautious. They move very slowly. And what they're doing as they move slowly is they're looking for change in the environment. Do I see anything different? Do I hear anything different? Do I smell anything different? Because that difference could pose a threat to me. And I want to make sure I recognize everything before I step out into that, because I have to survive. It's our first order of business as an animal. Well, we have that, the same thing that keeps that big. So there's this saying in hunting when you're sitting in the deer blind, big bucks don't get big being stupid. That's what that means, is that they're smart. They know that if there's something smells different, like don't go out there, it could be a threat. Well, we carry the same thing, and we fear difference. What differences do we fear? Any demographic variable. You know, I'm black, you're white. I'm gay, you're straight. I'm Christian, you're agnostic. I'm liberal, you're conservative. I'm low SES, you're high SES. I'm female, you're male. I mean, so all of that represents difference. And so whether we realize it or not, at some deep level, we likely have some kind of guard against a difference. And the more difference there is, the more guard we have up. So again, that could be gender, it could be political orientation, sexual orientation, racial background, any demographic variable. And another one is your personality. So what that means is that, so let's take conscientiousness. I score high on this. What that means, getting back to this bias and fear of difference, is that the bias that I carry into any group, being highly conscientious, is that I love structure. Man, I've got a list of lists. You know, I can get stuff done. Like, I'm just like this, okay? And I happen to live in a culture and a society that really values that and rewards that. So it's real easy for me to think, I'm right. People need to be like me. However, and my bias will be against people who are on the other end of the spectrum that love chaos. So my best friend is a musician, been a full-time musician his whole life, loves chaos. He's an artist. He's just very free flow. And so when we have lunch together about twice a month, and still to this day, we as middle-aged grown men, he still can't show up to a noon appointment for lunch. He'll text me at 12:08, bro, I'm about to leave my house. And I'm thinking, dude, how did you get to this stage in life and you can't even make it on time? It's because he lives in chaos, right? And so I judge him, and I think you need to be more like me. I know how to get to a lunch appointment on time. I know how to get things done. I file my taxes. People like you are what's wrong with the world. People like me are what's right with the world. That's the bias playing out, right? So I need to be aware of that. So we're in a team, let's say we're all team, and we're going to fall all over the continuum here. And if I'm not aware of my personality and the bias that I have against people who don't share my personality style, I will see it as not so much what strengths are we bringing to the table, but why can't you just be like me, and this team would be great if you were all just like me. So that's just a little bit about bias and how that impacts our personality. Let me stop there. What questions do you have about these 5 aspects of personality? Anything I can clarify?
Don't you think you can be parts of both of those? Like your personal life might be one way,
Yeah.
but your professional life or your professional persona
Yep.
is not.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I'm one person at home and I'm one person at the office. It's really funny because when we were going through the pilot of testing the 360 where other people rate you, I did mine, and then I asked 2 co-workers from my clinic to rate me and my wife. And so what happens is you see the data spread out on a graph, and you don't know who the raters are, but there's like the black dot is your rating, and there's a green dot, a red dot, and a blue dot. Those are the 3 people that you invited. So it was black dot, and then red dot and green dot, and then there was this blue dot way over here that was my wife, because she obviously sees me very, very differently than the people at work. The people at work think I'm nice because that's my persona at work, but my wife knows better. So yes, we can have different expressions of our personality in different locations. Okay, so here's another way to think of it. Where am I in the ocean? This is an acronym for those 5 personality. A high change, low change, or you could say high consistency there. Order or chaos, groups or solitude, cooperation, competition, reactive or stable. The person that scores high on this scale doesn't beat the person that scores low. That's not how it works. It's just on this continuum, where do you fall? The person that's really, really tall doesn't beat the person that's not tall. It's just based on where you land, you're going to have strengths and weaknesses associated with that personality style. And so what I'm going to do then is I'm going to invite you to we'll go online and take the test, so you'll know exactly where you are on this scale, and then I'll bring it back to like, what does my personality actually mean for me in a classroom or leading a group of people? Okay, so there it is, the ocean, big 5. Now, there's I forgot, there was an economist, Demsing, I think was his last name, in the 60s. Really brilliant guy, academic. And one thing he said that I love, he said, "In God I trust, all others must show data." And so that's the deal here. I can ask you, like I can show you, hey, we all have dimensions of personality. Where do you think you are? And some people say, oh, I think I'm high on this, I'm low on that. Well, in God I trust, but you have to show me data. So being the assessment psychologist nerd that I am, I thought, well, gosh, we should be able to record this and measure it, right? We need to find a test. And so we created one, and it's called the EASL, which is the Educator Assessment of Social and Emotional Learning. So what we're going to do now is I'm going to give you about 15, 20 minutes. Log on, and I'll show you. So the website, if you're watching online, it's www.taketheeasel.com/easel. So let me pull this up on my computer, and I'll show you what the website looks like. There it is. So you pull it up, and you're going to need to give an email. I recommend that you use your personal Gmail or Yahoo, or I'm real old school. I've even got a Juno email that I'm going to hang on to for nostalgic purposes. And all you do is you just do a little bit of demographic information, first name, last name, date of birth, your gender. Let me scroll down and see what else it asks for. Yeah, there you go. And then it says, thanks, let's get started. And the first one says Explorer. And you'd say, is that very inaccurate in a description of you, or is it very accurate? And you just go 1 to 5. The next one is, what is it? I can't even see it. Imaginative. So you say not at all, very much. Progressive, not at all. Innovative, not at all, very much. So just go through and click your responses. And as you do that, I'm going to play some Metallica for you to listen to relax you. I'm just joking, not Metallica. Back to the website. So you go through, and I think there are 80 words, and you click not at all or very much. And then at the very bottom, you click submit. And when you click submit, within a couple of minutes, you should have a report emailed to the email address that you gave. So we're going to give you plenty of time to do that. Ready, set, go. Okay. What we'll do then is I'm going to explain a little bit. So I just, hold on one sec, sorry. I took the report, I just took it online and I got my report. But sometimes, depending on the server, it takes a little bit longer to come to you. Does anyone in the room have their report yet? You have yours? Okay. Okay, so let's go back to this then. I'm going to talk through, I'm going to describe the variables, each of the 5 strengths and weaknesses, and then we'll stop in about 5 or 6 minutes, maybe 10 minutes, and talk and give you a chance to see your report. So, John, you still don't have yours, right? And nothing for you, is that right? Okay. What domain did you use for yours? Is it a Gmail or? Gmail, okay. Okay, and you might want to check your spam folder because sometimes it gets thrown to spam. So here we go. Once you get your report, you'll get a report that looks like this. Just one sec, I'll show you. This is my report here, and it should have your name down at the bottom of the first page, a little introduction, and then your results will start on page 4. And you'll see scores for openness to experience, conscientiousness, agreeableness, etc. So again, you're looking for a report in your email that has this cover page here. Okay. Does yours, ma'am, does yours look like that? Yep, good.
Let's see, the top part, I didn't see that box like you saw, but maybe it's farther down. I have,
I'll come over.
it says,
Let me take a look at it if you don't mind.
when I see the very top, like it says my score like that.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yes. High conscientiousness. Awesome.
Loader.
Okay. Good.
But I didn't see the box.
Oh no. Yeah. It's not on the report.
Oh.
Yeah. Thank you. So, what I'd like you to do then is, let's go back to the PowerPoint here. This is not on the report, but this is where you record your scores. So I'll give you a chance to go ahead. Why don't you go ahead and do that now since you have those. So your openness to experience score, I think, is on page 4. On page 4, there's a title, and then there's like a number between 1 and 5. And then do that for your conscientious score, and these are my actual scores here. Okay, you got your 5 scores all set? Okay, so let's move forward then. And what you'll do then, after you write down your 5 scores, you're going to find your high score and your low score. So the high score is the one that's closest to 5, and the low score is the one that's closest to 1. So on my profile, the high score is 4.3 on conscientiousness, and the low score is 2.1 on extroversion. Okay. That's where we find where most of our personality emerges, at our high score and our low score, whatever the high score and low score is for you. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through and describe each of these 5 scales and what high scores and low scores mean in terms of our personality. So let's talk about the first one, openness to experience. If you score high, on that O scale, you're good at thinking creatively. You explore, discover, adjust to change. Like, this is the person that likes to mix things up and keep things new. Potential sweet spot, if I'm a teacher, it's gifted students, because gifted students love something new. And the teacher that scores high on the O scale, real good at creating different creative lesson plans. You know, the gifted kids are going to love that. But if I score low, you know, that's if I love change. But if I love consistency, there's goodness there for me. This is the value I bring to the table. I'm good at being consistent, predictable, and reliable. People trust me because I'm so steadfast, and I'm just going to be there day after day after day. Which students am I going to connect with really well? Students with trauma, because students with trauma need predictability. They need consistency. And my personality, if I score low on that scale, it's perfect for them because they know what to expect with me. So high score and low score, this is why we love you. This is the value that you add to our lives. This is why you get on our nerves. Number one, if you score high on that, you might struggle with being consistent, predictable. You might have a hard time winning trust because you change so much and you're thinking, this is awesome, we're going to do this, oh, we're going to change, we're going to do this, we're going to change and do this, and you love it. But if I have a student that's got trauma, they're going to hate it because there's nothing predictable about it, and it's going to make them anxious because I'm changing things too much. If I score low, one of my problems that I you know, that's the teacher that says, we've always done it this way back in the Nixon administration, it worked well, we're going to do it now. Like, dude, come on, like, change it up. Potential conflict is gifted students, you know, that need something fresh and new. So just from this first personality scale, the openness to experience, you see, like, oh, if this is my personality, I'm going to be really, really good at some things, just naturally. I'm going to connect with certain people and certain students, and naturally, I'm not going to be a good match for other students. So back to the thing of leadership. I don't get to say as a leader, well, that's just who I am. Y'all need to deal with it. I have to be aware and say, oh, wait, that's how I prefer, but you may not prefer that. So let's talk about what makes sense. That's self-awareness and self-regulation. That's openness to experience. Now here's the next one, conscientiousness. I scored high. That was your high score as well. This is why the world needs more Adam Sciences and you in the world. We're focused, we're organized, task-oriented, disciplined, dependable. I mean, this is just your classic, like, I get stuff done. Potential sweet spot, students with ADHD, trauma, or being an administrator. Because students with ADHD or trauma need structure, they need consistency, and people who score high on that are real, real good with structure. Leaders tend to score high on that because the job of a leader is to enter into a group of people and an organization, the systems, and take chaos and make it to order. Order soothes anxiety. Order soothes anxiety, and a good leader creates order and structure and relational systems and processes where everyone knows, like, oh, this is how it works, right? So that's a great thing, you know. However, if you score low, if you're my friend Joey McGee that still can't make it to a lunch on time, love you, Joey. You're good at being flexible, spontaneous, comfortable with disorder. You're artistic, free flow. Sweet spot there, pre-K teacher. That's the teacher that has no problem trying to herd cats. You know, kids are everywhere, and it's just really, and you have to be able to tolerate that level of ambiguity sometimes. And those folks are really good. My friend Joey loves the free flow life. You know, so strengths on either end of the continuum there. This is the difficult. This is the shadow. People like me, Adam Signs, you value prioritizing relationships, or you struggle to prioritize relationships over completing tasks. Absolutely. I don't care how you feel. I don't care how you think. Just get it done. Just get it done. And sometimes that's good, but if relationships are suffering because I just want to plow through and get stuff done, not good. So I need to be aware of that. I also am prone to be a control freak. I need to be aware of that. Potential conflict, students with ADHD or emotional disturbance. So you say, hold on, Adam, you just said here, Potential sweet spot is students with ADHD or trauma, and now you're saying potential conflict, students with ADHD. What do you mean? Well, it could go either way, you know. It may be that I come into a situation and I create a lot of structure because that's my personality style, and students with ADHD respond very, very well. But what if I have a student that has inattentive ADHD and they're prone to get distractible and wander off? But I'm the kind of person that likes to get things done, and that student is not getting things done and they're wandering off. If I'm not careful, I might think, just do it. How many times do I have to tell you, look, the rules are right here. We've gone over this. You know, why can't you just get it done? And that can be a potential conflict. So it's all about me just asking, wait, who am I innately? I get to be that person, absolutely. But then I also have to ask, who in the room is not hardwired that way? And how might this be a challenge for them? Okay. People that score low, you struggle with being organized, getting things done. You may not be a good leader because you lack structure and predictability, potential conflict. Again, students that need structure. So that's conscientiousness. Let's go to the next one, extroversion. High scorers, we love you because you thrive in large groups. You lead well in group situations. Awesome. Potential sweet spot, student organizations. Extroverts were the kinds of students in high school that loved being in band, football, choir, debate, like, you know, all of those organizations because they thrive in the group environment, in the group setting. We love you. Introverts, people like me, this is one of my low scores, I think my lowest score. This is why we need introverts. You're able to be alone, solitude, you're introspective and insightful. Yep, that's me. Potential sweet spot, being a counselor or an art teacher, because arts are about going within, introvert, and arts are also low on the conscientiousness scale. That's another good spot for artists. So that's, if I score high or low, this is the value that I add around me. Now the next one, the shadow, if I score high or low. If I score high, extroverts struggle letting others share the conversation. So one of my real good friends is an extrovert, and when he gets into a group of people, he comes to life because of all of the energy in the room, and he doesn't realize it, but he dominates the conversation. And I told him one time, like, here's your rule, me then three. And he said, what do you mean then three? So what? Here's the deal. Me, you talk, and then don't talk again until 3 other people have talked in the room, because you dominate the conversation and you love it. You think you're killing it, but everybody else is looking at you like, man, when's this guy going to shut up, you know? So at your worst, extrovert, you might be prone to dominate the conversation. Potential conflict, students who are shy or anxious. So here's how that works in a classroom. Let's say I'm really extroverted. I love all of the energy in a classroom. I've got a student walk in. They're new. They have trauma. They're timid. They're insecure. They walk in very sheepish and they're not sure. I, being the extrovert, think, oh, they're extroverted like me. Come on in, smile, everybody give them a hug, say hi. And that's going to freak the kid out, you know, because of the trauma. And so, again, it goes back to me assuming that because I'm an extrovert, everybody else is an extrovert and they would love what I love. And it's just not the case. Introverts, people like me, I struggle showing that I care and that I'm engaged. At my worst, I'm like a bookworm in the corner, and people look at me like, what's that guy's problem? You know, he's so antisocial. You know, he doesn't talk, he doesn't smile, and I've always got this, you know, concentrated look on my face because I'm in my inner world thinking. I need to be aware of that. And then introverts tend not to be good leaders because they don't want to be around people. That's problematic. Potential conflict, students with big personalities and being in a classroom. We've done some coaching with some teachers that score low on that scale. If you're an introvert, you spend your entire day with 20 other human beings in a classroom, locked in a classroom with 20, like that's incredibly depleting. So we need to ask, if I'm an introvert, how can I regulate that from day to day? That's E. Next one, agreeable. Most elementary school teachers are highly agreeable. So let's talk about that. If you score high on the A scale, you're good at being a team player. You respond to authority by being tolerant, humble, and accommodating. So remember I said the people I like to be around are the people that'll shut up and do what I say. That's the highly agreeable person right there. They're just really good team players. Sweet spot, students with an emotional disturbance in elementary. Why? because students with an emotional disturbance, all students, but especially students with an emotional disturbance, they need to know that you're a relationally safe person. And highly agreeable people are very relational. They're warm, they're inviting. My guess is that you probably have a high score on the A. Did you get your report yet?
Yes, I did.
Did you have a high score on the A?
3.4.
3.4. That's getting up there, but middling. What was your high score? Oh, openness to experience. Okay, great. And then the last one is if you score low, I score low on that. I'm competitive, I'm persistent, I'm competitive, independent, I question things. That's what makes it, like I work with student athletes at A&M, at Texas A&M, and that's what helps me be good, is that I have this real competitive edge, and I can help them find their competitive edge and draw it out. Sweet spot, coaching, teaching logic, secondary. Highly agreeable teachers work well at elementary because the task for elementary kids is to build relationships. The lower I score on that, the better suited I am for secondary, because the task in adolescence is to push boundaries. That's how you develop identity, is you push boundaries. So being low on that can be very, very helpful. Last one, I'm sorry, this is the shadow side of agreeableness. You struggle setting boundaries, you have a hard time with difficult conversations. At your worst, highly agreeable person, you're a doormat. You just let people walk all over you. Potential conflict students with oppositional defiant disorder, and secondary kids, because again, secondary kids with oppositional defiant disorder, they're going to push boundaries. And if you're this real highly agreeable, syrupy sweet, I just don't want to offend them, I don't want to hurt them, I don't want to set a boundary because it might upset them, it's power struggle all day long. So there's that. And then if you score low, people like me, you struggle honoring relational harmony over being right. And that's the deal. I don't want to be connected, I want to be right. That could be problematic, Adam, if you're trying to build a group and all you care about is being right, and they don't have the data and you have the data and you can prove logically why you're correct. If that's what you value, your relationships will suffer. So I need to be aware of that. Being kind and gracious instead of brash and combative. Again, that's me to a T. Conflicts with student emotional disturbance and trauma elementary, because those kids come in with trauma, they come in with an emotional disturbance. I'm not there to build a relationship with them. I'm there to show them why I'm right, and they need to listen to me. And it goes back to that saying about kids and people not caring how much you know until they know how much you care. That's me at my worst. Last one, neuroticism. If you score high, you're good at being alert, mindful of surroundings, not being caught off guard. You respond to needs together. So people that score high on that, you get into your emotion real quick. And emotion, in my opinion, is a sixth sense. It tells us a lot about our environment, so that's great. You can access that quickly. If you score low, you're good at keeping emotions in control. You're not overreacting. You don't make impulsive decisions. So again, there are value either on either side of that scale. There. So that's just very quickly me running through those 5 aspects of personality. Now you know what your strengths are and what your weaknesses are. And you also know, well, I'll come back to that. Very quickly, I'll just share some data. I looked at we've given this to about 5,000 teachers, educators, teachers, administrators, everybody. And I pulled out about 2,000 in a random data set because I wanted to look and see how educators compare against themselves. First, I compared elementary school teachers to secondary teachers, and the data show the one area where they're most different in their personality is that elementary school teachers tend to be more agreeable than secondary, and for reasons that I just explained. Elementary school teachers need to be able to build relationships. Secondary teachers need to be better at setting boundaries. Administrators, as a whole, whether it's primary or secondary, they tend to conscientiousness scale and low on the neuroticism scale. And that's good because this is a classic leader profile. I can take chaos and make order, that's my conscientiousness, and I can do it without freaking out. I can stay emotionally stable. And that's what you want in a leader, somebody that can come in, create order where there's chaos, and do it without getting too emotionally aroused. Teachers with 20 years of experience, the one thing that separates them is they score very, very low on the emotionality scale. They're just very cool, calm, and collected. And I started thinking about that, like, is that because at some level you've been in education for so long, you've seen it all, and you're like, yeah, whatever, nothing phases me? Or you just cut off your feelings, many years ago as a survival mechanism. Who knows? But that's that. Okay. So now what does this look like? So I've described the personality, the strengths and the weaknesses, and what you're good at, and maybe what's a blind spot for you, and how that relates in a classroom or how it relates to a group dynamic. This is what it looks like practically. So this was a leadership team that I worked with at a high school, and they all took the easel, and then I compiled their data on this. And so the first thing I see as a leadership team is, overall, this is a good profile for a team, because you have a lot of people that are real good at taking chaos and making order. That's what you want. Next thing is, you got a lot of people over here, almost all of them, who don't get too emotional. They just don't get freaked out. They know how to stay cool, calm, and collected. So that's great. Now, this is where this can really get bad or potentially problematic. One person out of the whole group is agreeable. One person really, really likes relationships. And so that person, if they're part of the team, they're going to go into a group meeting, and all of these people here are going to say, great news, guys. We're going to get stuff done today. We've got an agenda. We're going to get things done. Great. We got through it. We're done early. Peace out. This person is going to say, oh, I feel lonely. Like, can't we just talk for a minute? Can't we just connect with each other? And so this person might end up feeling isolated. They might feel like, yeah, we get stuff done, but we don't know each other. We're not connected to each other. There's no sense of cohesion here, and they feel really left out. So the task for these leaders is, hey, this person is real critical. They're relational, and you guys over here are at risk of not being relational. This person needs to set the thermostat. So go to that person and say, hey, are we connected? What's your internal sense telling you about how connected we are? Do you recommend that we do anything when we come together for our team leadership meeting? Should we go around and just share like a glow and a grow, or something that we're thankful for? What can we do to make sure that this group over here doesn't power and dominate the entire dynamic, and that you can bring your relational brilliance to us? So that's just one example of how at a team level we want to honor the differences. And then this person here, open to one person likes to mix it up, likes to try things new. And so feeling in the minority, I'm the only one that likes things new and explore. And these people right here are going to have they're going to be the North Star in this group, the personality of this group. These folks over here need to come over here and say, we like order, we like structure, but you're really good at bringing fresh ideas to the table. Just curious, do you feel like you have the freedom in our group to bring your fresh ideas to the table? Because as we're planning and trying to get things done, you may have a brilliant solution that none of us are thinking about, because we just don't innately think as creatively as you do. So we want to make sure that we honor you and your openness to experience, and just know that you have permission to bring fresh ideas into the group. That's your gift to us. So that's a model of an emotionally intelligent group. So remember, I said that leaders who function with emotional intelligence, they create synergy, they create tonic, healthy work environments. That's what I'm talking about. It's like saying, oh, at a deep level, this is who we are, that none of us might be aware of until we actually take a personality test and we look at it, and this takes our insides and it takes our unconscious and makes it conscious. That's the process here. All right. How are we on time? I haven't even checked. 10:09. And what time are we done? At 10:09? 10:30. Okay, great. We're good. So there we go. Let's see if there's anything else. Okay, that was the last slide there. So let me do this. Pull this back up. Let's stop there, and I'd love for you to reflect back to me. Insights, things that you learn, questions. John, did you ever get your report?
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, cool.
Spot on with the agreeableness to being an elementary administrator.
Okay.
Spot on.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah. Yeah, good deal. Okay, so what can I clarify for you about this?
So what type of coaching or what approach do you take then to move people once they see these scores?
Yeah.
Start to digest what they mean, to move them into becoming a cohesive group that
Yes.
and we'll use them.
Yeah, so what is it, how do you actually implement this? Well, so let me go back to the report very quickly. So I'll show you what we have done in the report. So I'm going to pull up my report here. There it is. And let me go. I'm going to look on my page 5. So that's conscientiousness. And remember, that's my high score. So you'll see on page 5, it says high score. And this is what we talked about. I'm focused, I'm organized, I can see projects through to completion, disciplined, awesome. So that's my high score. Strength. Weaknesses, high score, you value the completion of tasks over the quality of relationships. You're potentially stubborn, overly demanding, or obsessive. So there it is there. But then if you go down a little bit more, it'll say you'll see action points to limit weakness. And what you have here is just some ideas, like, Adam, keep these things in mind. Key questions you'll see for every personality, for the high and the low. Key questions for this guy that scores high. Have I isolated myself or anyone or damaged any relationship in my quest to accomplish this task? Key question, that's like for my personal development and growth. That's how I start opening the Johari window. Is I ask this to other people to get feedback, and then people reflect that back to me. Have I expressed gratitude to those working with me on this project? So these are questions. So back to your question, like, how do you actually implement this with a team and get this to take shape? Number one, you take this test, you get the report, and everybody has their deal in writing. And so then you schedule a time to sit down and say, we're just going to go around, and I know this is scary, so I'll go first. Let me share my personality with you. These are my strengths, these are my weaknesses, and hey team, because you love me, and because I love you, and because we're committed to each other, and we need each other, please, please ask me these questions. This is how you make me a better leader, right? And know that as you share your strength and weakness, we all have a social contract, and we're going to honor each other. And part of our culture will be to give each other feedback. And so that's just going to be how we start doing life together. And so I would start with my leadership team that way. And so then you have your reports, you have the conversation, and then it's just understood that you will be honest with each other. Hold on one sec. Okay. So that step 1 is I take the report and I do my soul searching. I look at my strengths, my weaknesses, questions that people need to be asking. Step 2, we all take the report and have take the test and have our report. We sit down as a leadership team and spend an hour just going through and talking about it. This is my strengths, my weaknesses. These are questions you can ask me. And we just agree at a leadership level, we're going to pursue this because it brings out the best leader in us. As scary as it is, this is the work that we do. And then step 4 is, if I'm the leader, I keep the conversation active. When I see somebody that I'm leading struggling, whether they're struggling with the relationship or with a task, I say to them, is there anything I can do to help you? No, I'm fine. I don't need your help. Get away. Then I would push into that and say, well, I'm not so sure about that. And it seems like you're struggling with X, Y, and Z. Let's go back to your personality. Have you thought about how your personality will help you and how might it limit you? And so you bring the orientation of that problem-solving process back to the personality and then let them explore from there. And so that's it in a nutshell. But it starts first, the leader has to be willing to do this. And it's not one of those things where you say, hey, y'all need to do this and let me know. It starts with me. I take the test. I commit to vulnerability, to transparency. And as scary as that idea is from a leadership perspective, if you doubt the validity of that, I would just encourage you to watch anything or read anything by Brene Brown. She does a brilliant job of outlining why vulnerability and leadership is so critically important. So it starts with me, then we do it as a team, and we just keep coming back to the same language over and over. Awesome. Thank you for the question. And we do this with our teachers. So we have a pre-K through 12 SEL curricula, and half of that training is adult-focused SEL and half is student-focused SEL. So all of our teachers take this online. They get their report, and part of our training with teachers is to help them look at their personality so they'll know what strengths they bring into the classroom because of their personality, and then what potential limitations, blind spot, and biases they bring into their classroom because of their personality. Again, taking the unconscious and making it conscious.
Have you had any conflicts or issues when people take this, the initial conversation we started with, that how other people see us and how I see myself?
Yeah.
Taking this, I'm being influenced by that. Yeah, but I've heard so much about me that maybe I am disagreeable.
Yes.
Where there's that, I don't see saying inaccuracy, but conflict about taking this.
Yeah. Yeah. So the question I hear you asking is, and correct me if needed, to what degree do we potentially bring bias into a self-report? Huge, huge. In many ways, I'm the least reliable reporter of me because I know who I want to be, right? But who I am may differ. So let me I'll show you what the that report looks like. So you have, let's see here. You have a single dot, a single data point, but this is my 360. So this is what I rated. These are my colleagues, and that's my wife, right? And I could tell right away that pattern emerges throughout all of it. So yes, the 360 is a great way, for people that really want to take this seriously and are willing to be vulnerable with the people that they work with, then that's how you do that. Great. Awesome. Anything else?
So the second part, when you scroll on down to page 10,
Yeah.
so that's that optimism and...
Yes. Yeah, so the two things the easel measures, number one is your personality style, and the second thing is your vulnerability to stress, because that's another thing that we need to be aware of and regulate. Optimism, flexibility, and tolerance, psychologically, those are three traits that predict immunity to stress, meaning the more optimistic I am, the more tolerant I am, and the more flexible I am, the more durable I am against stress. So those are resilience, not personality, but character traits that create resilience to stress. So those bottom items, those last three, measure how much inoculation, I guess, I have towards stress, and then there are some practical strategies to increase those things.
Where do administrators land on that?
Most of them land pretty high. Well, let me put it this way.
If they've been around a while?
If they've been around a while, they land high because they wouldn't be around a while if they didn't have optimism, tolerance, and flexibility. Or they score high on that. They've been around for a while, and they're just toxic, crusty, bitter, pissed off people who are deeply, deeply in denial. And they just say, yeah, I'm good. And it's like, no, you're not. No, you're not. That's where 360 comes in handy.
I want to go with the first one.
Yeah, I hear you. Yeah. I invited my outpatient clinic in Texas. We have 30 providers, pretty big staff, and we all did this. Everybody did a self-report, and then we invited 3 other people to rate us just so that we could practice what we're preaching. And it made for a lot of good discussion. So in my next session, for anyone that might be here or watching, I'm going to talk about the next session is about emotional regulation. That's another part of what we need to be aware of and regulate. But at the end of the day, I'm going to come back and talk about how does my personality style come into play when people start escalating in conflict. Some people are going to be really, really good at certain aspects of navigating conflict based on their personality style, and then they're going to be really, really not good at navigating conflict, whether it's conflict with a student, conflict with a parent, conflict with a colleague. I'll talk about the stages of escalation and how our personality can help or hurt us navigate that process through conflict. Okay, well, thank you all for being here. Good to be with you.